You've come up with your topic, you're ready to start putting the speech together, but how do you know how much information to put in there and what order to put things in, and more importantly, how do you know what your point is going to be in the speech? In this short video, I'm going to talk to you about Stasis Theory, an ancient way that comes to us from the ancient Greeks and Romans. It's a wonderful tool to help you put together a really good presentation. Whether you're doing it for video, in person, or whether you're doing it in a podcast format, the Stasis Theory will help you identify what your thesis actually is for you. So instead of just giving a talk about marijuana should be legalized, you can talk in extreme specific about what you want that policy to be, to look like, and the limits of it, and anything else that you might want to share from your research. Remember, your speech is meant to change the minds or change the actions or change the beliefs or feelings of an audience. So all four are going to play into that, but one of them is going to be the root of your thesis. This is a four-part brainstorming exercise to make sure you find the heart of the position that you're trying to take. Stasis was used by the ancient Romans and ancient Greeks as the place to find where the conflict existed in a political or courtroom matter. That is, where is the difference of opinion? Where is the place where we're going to argue? For us, now we would use this in speech. I mean, you can still use it in argument and law, and it's very useful for having arguments and debates. But in this class for speech, what we will use it for is the idea of locating a powerful thesis and really sort of narrowing what it is that you want to say to something that's really great for your audience. Stasis Theory has four parts to it: conjecture, definition, quality, and action. Each one of these is a brainstorming tool to help you find where you want the heart of your speech to be. What is it that you want the audience to do or change or believe, or how do you want their attitude to change towards the topic that you're talking about? The first is conjecture, which is the question of the facts. What happened or didn't happen? The large picture of what exists or what doesn't exist. Conjecture is the place where you say what exists in the world or what things take place that are relevant to your speech topic. What's out there? What takes place? What things do we know exist, or what's the lay of the land involving this topic? It can be all of the factual information, historical information, all of the recent information in the media that exists that has caused this topic to come into the circulation of people's minds or into their conversation. What are the things out there that exist? What are the things that we know, and how do we know them? That's the root of conjecture. For definition, we get a little more hairy. Definition is, how do we best understand something? And for definition, this is the question in a legal case of what does it mean to commit murder versus manslaughter? What does it mean to have murder one or murder two? In law, it gets very specific. Definition for you might be a great place to find the thesis of your speech, because it might be that you want to talk about how people misunderstand what something means. There's the conjecture and the facts and what exists, but they're not interpreting it correctly. And that's where definition becomes the heart of the thesis of what you're trying to talk about. Next is quality. This is the most misunderstood one, and it's difficult to get a sense of it, but it's about intensity. It's about the sooner and later, the bigger, the smaller, the better, the best. What kind of quality is it? How good is it? How bad is it? So it might be that there's no issue with a controversy about what exists or not, and there might not be an issue of understanding with definition, but there could be a lot of discussion about quality. As an example for this, you can look to the excellent national summer debate about Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes and who had the better chicken sandwich. I know you might not want me to bring that up, but I think it was a great public debate example. And that focused a lot about quality and the standards for what a quality chicken sandwich is. If your topic is something like that, it might be good to explore quality as the root of your thesis. A lot of times students want to give speeches about drug policy. Quality is a great way to parse and to talk about drug policy in Stasis Theory, because we know drugs exist, we know what kind of drugs exist. The definition of a legal drug is not that controversial. I guess we could make our speech about that, but quality might be, how intense should a legalization of drugs be? How intense should punishment for drug possession be? And how many or what types of drugs should be legal or not? This is the root of quality as a Stasis Theory would be in a topic like this. Your thesis would be about quality, and that's where you'd brainstorm most of your arguments for that speech. Lastly, we have policy, which is what is to be done. What's the action we could take? And in a lot of speeches, you just want the audience to change their attitude, change their opinion, change their mind about something, or feel or behave differently about what it is that they have heard from your speech. In all these cases, the policy can be in great detail or as little detail as you want. But if you do the stasis model and you find the most interesting stuff to talk about is under policy, you should strap in for a speech that's about how we're going to do something, that we agree on its existence, its definition, and its intensity. If we agree there and there's not a lot of cool controversy there for you to build a case, then it's going to be a policy speech. And that's the one where you compare and say, if we have agreement on all these other things, then disagreement might be about how to implement it, so I'm going to speak about that. So as you can see, these 4 areas are all very deep and interesting, and there might be a speech where you're going to talk about Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and that might focus on conjecture. How do we know it's out there? What evidence is it that it's out there? And that might be where you double down on your speech and spend a lot of time making arguments there for your speech. Or if it's something like the chicken sandwich, it might be quality or definition. What counts as a good chicken sandwich? How do we know it was authentically made? That could be quality. For policy, if you're going to speak about drugs or drug issues, it might be about that. Or for those of you who want to speak about student athletes and compensation or things of that nature, policy might be the way to do it. Or concussions in the NFL, which is a very popular topic these days. That might be a policy speech. For any speech you're going to do, you need to brainstorm all 4 and write out the different things you think for each one, and it will help you come up with a much more refined thesis and a much better topic and a speech that people will be happy they spent time on, instead of hearing another dry speech about the facts about marijuana or the facts about the NFL or NBA. That kind of a speech, you're not really contributing anything. But if you can narrow your thesis down using stasis to, this is the narrow band of this issue I want to talk about with you, then the audience feels like they're getting something very special. They'll be attentive and they'll be thankful for spending their time listening to you.